Thank you very much. Thank you, John, for that generous introduction. I'm proud to serve with you and looking forward to your partnership. My thanks as well to Pat Walk for inviting me to be here this evening and for your years of exemplary service and leadership as State Committee Chair. With the election of your successor today, you already look much, much more relaxed. Congratulations to your new State Committee Chair, Rick Palacio. Congratulations, Rick. And indeed to all of the candidates and their supporters who work so hard for them. We need you now to unite and to look and stand forward. And to my good friend Bill Ritter, to Lieutenant Governor Garcia, to Senator Udall and Senator Bennett, the honorable members of the Congress and the state legislature, distinguished elected officials one and all, to all of tonight's honorees, to all of my fellow Democrats. It is my great pleasure to be with you here in Colorado and to be with Colorado Democrats. I like winners, and I am with winners tonight. Our youngest daughter, Catherine, is a junior in college and doing well. I remember so clearly sitting at her graduation from high school a few years ago and reflecting on the difference between her journey to that milestone and my own nearly 30 years before. I grew up, as John was saying, on the south side of Chicago, most of that time on welfare. I lived with my mother and my sister and occasionally a cousin in our grandparents' two-bedroom tenement. My mother, sister, and I shared one of those bedrooms and a set of bunk beds. So you go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor every third night on the floor. I went to big, broken, overcrowded, sometimes violent public schools. I can't remember when I didn't love to read. But I don't remember ever owning a book of my own until 1970, when I got my break at 14 years old through a program called A Better Chance to go to a boarding school outside of Boston. I first saw that boarding school, Milton Academy, the night before classes began. And for me, it was like landing on a different planet. They had a dress code in those days. The boys wore jackets and ties to classes. So when the clothing list arrived at home, my grandparents splurged on a brand new jacket for me. Now, a jacket on the south side of Chicago is a windbreaker. So that first morning when all the other boys were putting on their blue blazers and tweed coats, I was there in my windbreaker. I knew I had a lot to learn. Now, our daughter Catherine's experience has been very different. She's always had her own room for most of her life, in a great big house in a leafy neighborhood where I used to deliver newspapers when I was a student at Milton Academy. By the time she got to high school, she had already traveled on 4 continents. She knew how to use and pronounce a concierge. And she had shaken hands in the White House with the President of the United States. Once when Catherine was 5 years old, her kindergarten class was studying the changes in the seasons. Her homework assignment was to describe to Mom and Dad the 4 seasons. So when the time came, she described to us in minute and accurate detail her several visits to the 4 Seasons Hotel in Washington, D.C. She said, first you drive up and the doorman takes your car. 5 years old. 1 generation. 1 generation. And the circumstances of my own and my life, my family's lives, were completely transformed. Now that story may not get told as often as we'd like, but it gets told more often in this country than anywhere else on earth. That is an American story. That belief that it is within our grasp and imagination to make a better way for ourselves and our family is the American dream. Well, my friends, in the minds of too many tonight, the American dream is up for grabs. Thanks to the global economic collapse, millions of people have lost their jobs, their savings. Thousands have lost their homes. Many, maybe even some of you, have lost confidence. In Massachusetts and perhaps in other parts of the country, some folks harbored nagging doubts about the American dream even before the Great Recession. 4 years ago in our state, young people and jobs were leaving. Roads and bridges were crumbling. We had enacted health care reform but had not yet implemented it. STEM cell research was banned. Our clean energy potential was undermined by refusal to join the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative or to support the Cape Wind project, a stalled offshore wind farm. The poor were in terrible shape and had been for a long, long time. The difference was that the middle class was 1 or 2 paychecks away from being poor and deeply anxious about it. And we had had 16 years of Republican governors more interested in having the job than doing the job. Hope was in short supply. So we set out on a journey to change that, to revive the American dream. And as we did, I was mindful that times like these are more than a test of policy. They are a test of character. I learned a long time ago, long before I was governor, long before I served in Fortune 500 companies, growing up on the south side of Chicago, that optimism and effort, hope and hard work is the only way to climb out of a hole. So when the going got tough, I didn't cut and run like a whole bunch of folks who'd had this job before me. I didn't look for scapegoats or lose my way. Instead, just like families across our Commonwealth and our country, we took a fresh look at our plan, screwed up our resolve, and made choices. We chose to invest in education, in health care, and in job creation. Why? Because we all know that educating our kids, having health care you can depend on, and a good job is the path to a better future. And that is why today, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts leads the nation in student achievement and health care coverage, with over 98% of our residents insured. That is why today we are creating jobs faster than 45 other states, especially in those innovation sectors that will help us win the future. That's why we won the National Race to the Top competition, and why we will be home to America's first offshore wind farm. That's why our veterans serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and all around the world know that we will look after their families when they are away and help them when they come home. That is why today, for the first time in 20 years, young people and families are moving back into our Commonwealth faster than they are moving out. And that is why in our Commonwealth today, you can marry anyone you love. And it's also why, with labor at the table, we have not only closed our budget gap, but also made meaningful changes in our pension and health benefit systems, in our schools, and in our transportation bureaucracy that had eluded us for decades before. None of this is happening by accident. It's happening because of the choices that we are making. It's happening because we didn't just stand around and wait for the economy to rebound. We are building a better future for all of us by making choices. Now, Republicans would make very different choices. Let me be clear, I am the governor of all of the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, people of either party or no party, the ones who voted for me and the ones who didn't, the ones who agree with this or that policy choice and the ones who don't. That's the job. But I try to make it as clear as possible why I am making the choices I am making. What values are motivating me as a citizen and as a Democrat? And the values of the National Republican Party today are very different from mine. Republicans say that if you just shrink government, cut spending, crush unions, and wait, all will be well. Now, I hope you've noticed they don't actually believe any of that. The same folks who say that government should be small and spending should be limited are responsible for the biggest run-up in the size of the federal government in history and spending deficits out as far as the eye can see. The same folks who are attacking the principle of public sector collective bargaining today will make an exception for any union that endorses their candidate. They don't believe what they say. The same folks who say religious fundamentalism is a danger abroad are busy promoting it right here at home. The same folks who say government should stay out of our private lives want to tell women whether to keep an unwanted pregnancy and legislate whom you and I will marry. National Republicans have abandoned any sense of balance or responsibility for our common future to win at all costs. And when you call them out, they turn to bullying and belittling. We need to be better than that. We need to offer more than a strong argument for what we are against. We need to be clear about what we as Democrats are for. So the bigger issue is not what they believe. The question is, what do we believe as Democrats? And are we willing to fight for it? I am proud to be a Democrat. Well, wait a minute. Because sometimes Democrats can get on my last nerve. After our special election last year, when one Republican senator won the seat held by our beloved Ted Kennedy, Democrats all over America started acting like Chicken Little. The loss of the House to the radical right last fall was as much about a loss of confidence as it was about a loss of votes. My friends, it's time for Democrats to grow a backbone and stand up for what it is we believe in. We believe in equality, opportunity, and fair play, bedrock principles that define not just what America does, but who America is. We believe government is about people, not abstract policy, that campaigns are about vision and values, not winning at any cost. We believe we should be in this fight for your and your kids' jobs, not our candidates' jobs. We believe that we owe the next generation a better country than we found, not quick fixes that push the real solutions off to another day. We believe in the politics of conviction, not the politics of convenience. We believe that in crisis, we turn to each other, not on each other. Our beliefs are different, and so our choices are different. Their answer to unemployment is to push people off of their unemployment benefits. Ours is to help the innovation economy flourish and help our workers prepare to participate in it. Their answer to public schools is to cut billions of dollars out of the education budget. Ours is to raise standards and expectations and to support the single most significant determinant of a great education, and that is a great teacher in that classroom. Their answer to health care costs is to stand on the sidelines and do nothing while you can't afford a doctor and your premiums are going through the roof. Ours is to spread health care to every man, woman, and child in America because health is a public good and to bring down the costs to premium payers. Their answer to reforming government is to join in the call for change and then hope that you won't notice that they were the ones in power when the rules we've been changing were put in place. Ours is to challenge each other to make government smarter, more effective, and more inclusive, knowing that government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. Their policies are stuck in the past. Ours are rooted in winning the future. They think elections are about their party. We know that elections are about our country. Now, some of you may not support every choice we've made in Massachusetts. Some of those choices have made even some of our traditional allies uncomfortable. But these times demand more than making each other comfortable. The times demand that we face the hard choices before us with candor and courage, because doing so today will make us stronger tomorrow. I am proud of the work we have done to restore the American dream in Massachusetts, but as a resident of the Commonwealth, as a Democrat, and as an American, I am not yet satisfied. And you shouldn't be satisfied either. We won't be satisfied until every single resident who's looking for work can find it. We won't be satisfied until a great school is within reach of every child, not just the kids who live in the fancy suburbs. We won't be satisfied until health care is as accessible across America as it is in Massachusetts today and as affordable as it is accessible. We won't be satisfied until we bring real simplicity and true equity to our tax system. We won't be satisfied and shouldn't be satisfied until seniors can age in their own communities instead of in nursing homes, and people with disabilities can live independently instead of in institutions. We won't be satisfied until we have enough police on the streets and enough stability in the homes to end youth violence. We won't be satisfied, and we shouldn't be satisfied, until we start treating each other the way Scripture teaches, as we ourselves would want to be treated, even if we come from a foreign land. We won't be satisfied, my friends, until we bear our generational responsibility, our responsibility to leave this place better than we found it, to lift one another up instead of tear each other down. These are the choices the Democrats stand for, on creating jobs, on schools, on climate change, on health care costs, on social and economic justice. Are we going to be satisfied, or are we going to finish what we started? We worked hard 4 years ago in Massachusetts and 2 years ago for the White House to change the guard. Now, my friends, it's time to guard the change. Now is no time to be satisfied, because there are real needs in real people's lives at stake. I visited a jobs club in Quincy, a small city outside of Boston. Jobs clubs are groups of unemployed people who come together at our career centers to encourage and support each other. This one jobs club has moved their meetings to a local restaurant because they've been out of work for 1.5 years, in some cases almost 2. The folks I met, about 20 of them in all, were mostly in their 50s, like me. I think the oldest was 61. And as they told their stories one by one, it was clear to me that they had done everything they were supposed to do. They did their jobs, they raised their families, they saved what they could, they helped out in their communities. And then one day they got a visit or a note from the boss saying that because of the downturn in the economy, their services were no longer needed. They talked about what losing their jobs and their means of providing has done to their lives and to their confidence in themselves and in their country. These are the folks everybody wants us to believe are angry. But the people I met weren't angry. They're scared. One man told me he's not sure what happens in a few weeks when his extended unemployment benefits run out. He's not worrying about whether he can take a planned vacation. He's worried about groceries in America. No one I met at that jobs club thinks that government can or should solve every problem in their lives. They just want to know that we see them, that we care about them, that we are doing everything we can to help them help themselves. Every day I go to work and every night I go to bed, the people I met at that jobs club and the ones like them I encounter all over our Commonwealth are on my mind and my heart. They are central to our work as Democrats. It's for them that we need to finish what we started. It's for them that Democrats have to stand up again for American values and the politics of conviction. The American dream is worth fighting for. And I say that not as a governor or a Democrat, but as someone who has lived it. Stand tall and fight for that with optimism and effort. And by the grace of God, I am certain that our best days lie ahead. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.